we're going to talk now mental health, because Chair of Carlow Mental Health Association, Rita Kelly, as Carlow Mental Health Association, are delighted to present the programme of events for Mansana Fest 2023. It's not only, I think, one of the key dates on the mental health calendar now at the moment, it's one of the key dates on the event of most people in and around the Carlow and Kilkenny area. Also joined on the line by Niall O'Muiri. A face in the crowd is one of the key elements of the Mansana Festival this year, and he's joining us also to tell us, and those attending the play in the visual, what they can expect. You're both very welcome to the show this morning.
Thanks a million, Brian.
Well, Rita, I mean, Mansana here yet again. I mean, it must roll around quicker than Christmas for you now at this stage.
It's a bit like that, and it's like everything. As you get older, Brian, it seems to come quicker and quicker. But look, it's as you say, it's the highlight of our events in Carlow Mental Health Association. And this year I suppose we mightn't have as many events as usual, but I suppose we're trying to cater specifically for the needs of young people. And again, that's based on feedback we would have got from previous years, that I suppose a lot of our events maybe didn't feature on young people, but this year our programme is very specifically towards young people, but not exclusively, because in that you have to look after or meet the needs of the parents, teachers, carers, anyone that's looking out, youth workers. So our programme kind of covers that sort of spectrum this year, but that's not to say everybody else there's something there for everybody over the couple of days, Brian. So
absolutely,
we hope people will come along.
Yeah, and I can see the agenda, if you like, for all the events. There's definitely something in there for everybody. But it's kicking off on the 5th and running up to and including World Mental Health Day. That's actually on the 10th. That's a slight change from previous years.
Yeah, we usually try and start around the 10th or kind of whatever, but I suppose our opening act, if you like, is Davy Fitz on the 5th on Thursday night of this week. And really, that was the only night we could get Davy, so we sort of said, right, we'll take Davy and we'll walk through. So Davy is with us on the 5th. He's in the Dolman Hotel. And while we all know Davy's GA profile, I suppose over recent years, Davy has moved really into that whole sphere about talking about mental health, very open about his own challenges, but also with, even in the Ireland's Fittest Family, and specifically that piece he did, that TV programme, Davy's Toughest Teams, where he worked with young people who've had their own challenges, and he really, set them on a path physically and mentally to turn their lives around, and we've seen through the TV programme how that has happened. So Davy is Thursday night, and one of his protege, if you like, Conor Harris, a young guy who was on Davy's first series, is with us then on the Saturday morning. We're grateful to Dinree for the use of a little pop-up shop there opposite Detail and Potato Market, and Conor is there on the Saturday at lunchtime at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And Conor's just talking about his experience, a chap that had mental health challenges, was living a life of addiction, was really on a slippery slope, but got involved with Davy and has turned his life around. He's now doing mental health talks. He's working in the whole area of fitness and well-being. And Conor is doing just a chat with us, very informal. Workshop is probably a bit too structured a word, but we're hoping young people will come along and just hopefully they'll know him. He has a fairly good social media, high profile on social media. So hopefully the teenagers around Carlow will know of Conor and will come along. They're a difficult bunch to pull into stuff, so maybe some of the parents might need to kind of encourage or highlight it, but it's just a very informal, come along and listen to what he has to say.
Absolutely. I mean, Conor's story on, Davy's toughest... Davy's Toughest Team, as the programme was called on RTE there. I think it was late last year, actually, or early this year. It was really, really touching. And I mean, Conor's story coming full circle from when he first met Davy to now actually being part of the schedule at Mansana is not just access to his own story, but also will be an inspiration, I suppose, for other people that might be looking in.
And you see, that's what we're trying to do, Brian, just to bring that hope. And like, everyone faces challenges every day of the week, be they small or large. But this chap was really in a bad place, and there was nothing going right for him. But he has completely turned his life around. And that's the message of hope. It doesn't happen easily. It's not simple. It's like any addiction. It's like any bad habits that we have. It takes hard work. But he's testament to how that hard work and determination and just sticking with it will turn your life around. And, that's not really a message for young people. That's a message for us all. But absolutely. I suppose he's of that profile that we said, right, young people are not going to come listen to you and me talk fine. You know, they write us off at our age. But hopefully they might have the interest to come and listen to somebody of their own age, their own peer.
And the thing I think that's really interesting about Conor and his story as well is he's not necessarily framed as an expert who's going to tell us what we need to do. He's basically going, as you said, to share his story and just share some of those skills that he's learned to help him get through life.
Yeah, and it's not all easy. You know, that's very much his message. You just have to stick with it, and the day you don't want to do it is the day you'll make best results, because you'll do it anyway. And that's the message. We'll
look at some of the other items that are on the Mensana Fest schedule, but of course one of the highlights of the festival is the play that's taking place in the visual, A Face in the Crowd. And Rita and I are joined by Niall O'Muiri this morning. Good morning, Neil.
Morning, Brian. How are you?
Listen, great to have you on. Tell us a little bit about A Face in the Crowd and where it came from.
Well, it's very like Conor's story there that yourself and Rita were talking about. It originated down here in Wexford, whereby two colleagues of mine, Paula Lowney and Mairead Connaughton, were occupational therapists at the time, and at the time I was working as a community mental health nurse. And we saw a need for just setting up a storytelling group of bringing people along who had throughout long periods of their lives lived with mental illness. They wake up every day and they cope with it and they deal with it, but they never had a forum to express or to tell or to share their stories in a non-judgmental way. And so we brought together a group, and we started off over a 6-week program, and out of that we just found that this was so the stories that came out of it and the opportunities people had to share their stories, because nobody ever asked them about it. And so for example, we got stories of a young girl. She celebrated her 21st in a psychiatric hospital. Now, you and me and all your listeners know, where did you celebrate your 21st?
Yeah.
But this girl remembers this as a moment in her life when she felt safe, and she remembers it as a happy moment because the nurses made a big fuss of her. We got stories of a young fellow coming up to his leaving cert, and it was the first time he experienced hallucinations. And when we asked him, well, what happened then? He said, well, they just followed me home, and they've been following me ever since. And we hear stories of the effects of bullying has on a person's mental health, and the devastating effect that it has on your self-esteem and confidence. And so at the end of that process, and we were happy enough with that process, we were asking the storyteller, where would you like this to go? And one of the lads, John Cloney, said, Neil, if I knew then what I know now, my whole life would have been different. And if I could help one kid with my story, if I could turn their life around, if I could get them to ask for help earlier than I ever asked for help, their life will be completely different. And from that, we developed the play A Face in the Crowd, and we've been on the road since 2015. So it's great that we're going. We were back in Carlow a good few years ago. Rita brought us back in then, and we're back again. And it's great to be part of the Mensana Festival.
And Neil, how does the play take those stories and deliver them? In what context does it deliver them on stage?
Well, we ran it initially, and we got an amateur drama group here, Bunclody Commercial Drama Group, put it on, and then we developed it further with schools and talking to students. But what they are is they're the real life testimonies of people who have struggled every day, and their stories of recovery, and that's the important thing in it. And we deal with all those issues, because what happens is, and Rita will tell you with her background in nursing, that a lot of young people, they don't have this discussion in schools about what is schizophrenia, what is bipolar, the effects that drugs have on your mental health and your well-being, and that a lot of kids, when it starts happening, they don't know what's happening, and by the time they reach out for help or get help, it's a long road back to recovery.
Rita,
so sorry.
No, I was going to ask Rita, because we were talking about conditions like bipolar and schizophrenia. And Rita, there is great work done in the schools in terms of trying to encourage young people to look at their own mental health. But do you think that we need to go deeper with that and specifically teach about these types of conditions?
I think we do, Brian. I think we really do. And I suppose for Carlow Mental Health Association, this is a step further for us. We've always kind of approached the piece around positive mental health and the anxiety, stress, and I'm not diminishing the effect of those illnesses. They can be crippling for people. But we haven't really stepped over into the area of mental illness. And I suppose during COVID, we all got a taste of what anxiety or stress was like, because it was the unknown. So I think that whole conversation has started much more within society. Mental illness is still taboo. Mental illness is still not spoken about. It's not understood.
Yeah.
It's It's not a broken leg, Brian. It's very hard to understand it. I was a colleague of Neil. We nursed together in mental health for over 30 years, both of us. To even explain how people present, it's difficult because you can't understand it unless you've seen somebody talking to themselves, responding to voices that are not there, seeing things. People in a bed trembling because they see something on their body. It's horrific. But people live with that every day of the week. Now that sounds very dramatic, but until people get into help, into services and get the help, when you're talking those major mental illnesses, you really are talking medication, because it's the only way you will get the person stabilised. That's not to say we need more understanding, and talk therapy certainly have a place, but often medication. And these people often don't feel that they're unwell. Somebody who's hypomanic feels they're on top of the world. Everything is wonderful. They're living the high life, but they're causing chaos for their family and friends. But they don't see anything wrong. So to get that person to comply and take medication. So yes, in an answer to your question, and that's what the play is in the visual on the Tuesday night for members of the public. But during that day, and as Neil said, it's professional actors that are doing the real life stories, but they're professional actors on stage. It's been staged twice during the day, and over 600 transition year students across Carlow are booked in through their TY coordinator, and they will have a chance to see the play in the visual. And then the follow-up workshop, Neil and myself and a number of other mental health professionals go into the schools, and we meet with each of those students in groups, the students who attended that workshop, to explore the issues. Because just to be exposed to that on its own, it's quite heavy, it's quite stark.
Yeah.
It does cover very heavy issues to the point of suicide. So we go back into the school and we give these kids an opportunity to workshop through that. And the message in that workshop, as Neil will tell you, is the message of hope, recovery, and to know that there is somebody, even if there's only one good adult in your life, know who that person is, that you are feeling something is off, you don't know what it is, but who do I go to?
It's key.
And when we're in crisis, we don't have the clarity to think about that. So we need to think about that before shit hits the fan, if you excuse the language. Before that happens, we need to know who has our back.
Yeah.
So that when we're in crisis, we don't have to think about it.
Well,
so again, on that night, we were really hopeful that the parents of those kids will come along, because if my teenager was being exposed to that in school, I'd like to know what exactly it was they were exposed to and be able to continue that conversation at home.
I think it's fabulous, Rita and Neil, to hear that connection between general mental health and mental illness. And what's been going through my mind listening to you both think is actually, I thought we were doing a great job when it comes to mental health, but I've almost completely forgotten about this other sphere that's definitely connected of mental illness. If it's okay, could I ask you both to hang with me for just one moment, if you don't mind, because we've got to take a little ad break, but I do want to just give you a little bit more time, because I think it's so important. And of course, we want to look at the whole Mansalem Festival in its entirety. So if you don't mind, stay with us and we'll be right back with you after this.
KCLR.
You're very welcome back. Before the break, you heard me talking to Rita Kelly, Chair of Carlow Mental Health Association, and Niall O'Muiri, who's pulling on a play as part of this year's Mansalem Festival. The play, entitled The Face in the Crowd, looks at the stories of people suffering from mental health and mental health conditions, and it's taking place in the visual. It really brought that home to me during the break there, Rita, that these not bigger, because you don't want to diminish the stresses that people are feeling as well, but these chronic conditions, these chronic illnesses, they've almost gone away. They've almost left my memory, because we've been so focused on mental health as opposed to mental wellness as well.
Yeah, that's it. And as I say, COVID really shone the light on the everyday challenges. But you use the word there, enduring, and those illnesses that Neil's play will address are what within mental health services we refer to as severe and enduring mental illness, because they don't go away, but you do learn to manage them, and you do learn to have a quality of life. And I think that's very much, the four people whose lives are depicted in the play, it's quite stark, it's quite sad, and the lives they're leading now are not the lives they set out on, but they are leading lives where they have a quality of life. It's not where they thought they were going to end up. And like even here in Carlow, we've an involvement centre. I've just been up there this morning picking up bits and pieces for Mensana, And that is a centre here in Carlow, and there's another one in Kilkenny, the Recovery College in Kilkenny, all peer-led services for people who are living with mental health challenges, where, again, they're not professionals, but they're drop-in centres where people can drop in and just, if having a bad day, there's somebody there who will sit down and have a cup of tea with you when you're not at your best, when you're not able to pick up the phone to that friend. Or often people with severe and enduring mental illness don't have a great circle of friends. They lose friends along the way. So just to bear that in mind, and it's something through all our work in Carlow Mental Health Association, our main role is signposting so that people know what supports and services are there. So just to bear that in mind, and at all our events, and we'll have an information stand in the Fair Green throughout Mensana. So again, all that signposting, all that material will be there. Hopefully we'll have volunteers on that stand. We won't have somebody on it all the time, but if you're in Fair Green, have a look at our stand, pick up any of the information
will be there.
All there to take away. Yeah.
Well, Rita, we'll look at some of the other highlights of Mensana in just a moment. To wrap up, talking to Niall. Niall, what sort of reaction have you had over the various different productions when you've put this play out to people leaving the theatre?
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and especially the generation of kids now who spend an awful lot of time on their phones and on their laptops. And in school, when they do deal with mental health and well-being, and it's all part of the curriculum, for kids coming to a theatre, number one, for most of them it's their first time ever coming to a theatre. And they come in the door, and you know yourself, when you get a free class, genius, like releasing wildebeest out onto the savannah. They come in, they just come in the doors, and there's teachers there sitting them and settling, and we're there with the sweat running down the back of our neck thinking, genie, will this take off at all? But it is amazing the effect of a live performance, that when the lights go down and the silence in the theatre and the profound effect it has on kids when they come out.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to get that silence, just to get people to think.
And you see, and it has been described as the missing piece in the jigsaw when it comes to mental health education, because it's the first time kids are exposed to these stories as raw as they are. But I do remember, we're painting a slightly dark picture, and it is a dark play in one sense, but they are stories of recovery. Yeah. And one of the lads who told us their story, and he came along to it with his family, and he was sitting there watching, and I said, how do you feel about hearing your story up there on stage? And he said, Neil, it's not that dark. I do enjoy myself sometimes. I do. I do go down the pub. I do have a point. I've had me issues, and I've had me moments, and as Rita said, me dreams and my life ambitions didn't turn out the way I thought they would. Like most of us.
Yeah.
Once it's coming out of school, our life takes a different tack. So there is a positive outcome. Recovery does happen. You do have a quality of life, and that's the key message coming out of the play.
And Rita, I just wanted to continue that sort of sentiment in terms of reflecting it back on the Mensana Festival as an entire body of events taking place between the 5th and the 10th of October. There is hope out there, and Mensana and indeed Carlow Mental Health Association itself, they're a huge part of that. Congratulations on all the fantastic work that you've done. Do you look forward to the start of Mensana, or do you look forward to the finish of Mensana with all the logistics you've got to deal with, Rita?
At this stage, I'm looking forward to the end of it, but once it kicks off, it's a brilliant couple of days, and the reaction you get from people, Brian. I would encourage people to come out to some of the events. I think we've all got a little bit hesitant about going out to things since COVID, and there are, there's events there. We've Zumba with Maria on Friday evening. We've Pause for Parents and Carers with Catherine Callahan. Our tagline for this year as well is to run a walk a mile a day in October for your mental health. So we're linking in with the park run on the Saturday morning. You don't have to run their 5K. They have a half mile marked out on the Bower track where it normally is on a Saturday. Come down, walk the half mile, walk back. You have your mile covered for the day, and stop and have a cup of coffee with us, a cup of tea with us.
Absolutely.
So there's lots of fun events. Yeah. We have Carlow buskers in the Exchange building, that fabulous new building we have in Potato Market. Musicians who are linked in with Carlow Youth Services, they're doing a busking.
And Rita, what I noticed as well, so many of those events are free. I mean, even the play itself in the visual, entitled The Face in the Crowd, it's only €5. It's a fabulous programme of events. You guys really have done fabulous work. And of course, anybody looking to reach out to Carlow Mental Health Association, you can check them out on carlowmentalhealth.ie. Mensana Festival kicking off on the 5th of October with that event with Davy Russell in the Dolman Hotel in Carlow, and running right the way through to the 10th.